Welcome to another episode of Ministry Matters That Matter. We're at the 2024 Challenge Youth Conference in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee. The main sessions are just the other side of that wall. We've got 12,000 plus people here praising God and studying His Word. It's been a fantastic weekend. I've got my friend with me today, Laws Rushing, and I think when we met, I believe you were 13.
That's right.
And I think I was around 21 or 22.
Yeah.
Something
We
like
look
that.
the exact same, don't we?
Oh, yes. I have not changed a bit.
Yeah.
Just as skinny and everything.
That's right.
So that was at the Future Preachers Training Camp.
That's right. At the, I guess you could say, one of the original camps in the
Yes.
Brotherhood, maybe the original.
The only other two, the two early ones, the one was started at Pennington Bend
Yes.
in 82. And then I think maybe Jack did one with Lads to Leaders in the late 60s.
Okay.
I don't know. I think it was a little bit different flavor than what Rodney Cloud and
Yes.
the gang did at Pennington Bend. But those two camps are kind of the first
Yes.
of its kind that I
Yes.
know of. Or I think I said 82. It's actually 72. So, but we just did the 50th anniversary just a few years ago. So it's
An amazing time, and I was always impressed with you, Kirk. And I mean, I remember, devotionals and time we spent together, and so I just appreciate, what you've meant to me personally, and then, to see you now training preachers and looking back and saying,
Brother would be proud,
he would
wouldn't
be
he?
proud. He might be a little surprised at me too.
I think he'd be a little shocked with both of them.
Yeah.
Because, there's a lot of preacher guys out there that went to the preacher's camp
Yeah.
that are in wide varieties of works in the church. I
Absolutely.
mean, elders, deacons, youth ministers, missionaries, professors
Yes.
that came through the camp. But, it's a testimony when you invest in young people,
Yes.
what happens if you invest in helping them and training them. And we do get pretty tight there. So
Yeah.
there's just a connection.
There is a connection,
like it.
and so yeah, I'm proud to be an alumnus of the preacher training
Okay,
camp.
so let's talk about since then.
Yes.
You went to Freed, and
Yes.
the legendary meeting you held at Finger. They still talk about on the campus at Freed. And then, of course, my family, we lived in Henderson. We only lived about a mile and a half from the
Yeah.
the Finger Church building. But I think about preaching. You
Yeah.
did music. You did preaching.
Yes.
I know you were president at Riverside. You're now at Mars Hill. So you've traveled a lot of roads.
Yes, it hasn't been a straight line, but God's providence has been so kind
Yeah.
and so good. There was a period of time where I played music in Nashville, Tennessee. I went to Middle Tennessee State University for mass comm and ended up being a songwriter in Nashville. So that gave me some unique experiences. And so sometimes I draw upon them. Hopefully I learned a little bit from them, but eventually kind of did some more education and started church ministry again with the historic Lindsley Avenue Church of Christ, downtown Nashville, and then transitioned to education and now at Mars Hill Bible School.
All right. So before we get into the deep stuff, all right. So I remember you and I talking. You talked about running into Steve Winwood. I'm a big Winwood fan.
Yes, yeah.
Of course, I grew up as an Eagles fan, and I never saw the Eagles in concert. Did see Joe Walsh in concert. I think you
Yeah.
drove for him.
I did.
So what's your best music encounter? Talk to me about that.
There's a lot of them, so it is a bit of a challenge. But I moonlighted in my time when I was songwriting and playing music in Nashville. I was a chauffeur,
Okay.
and so I got to drive Joe Walsh. I got to drive. There's so many that I'll watch TV or listen to the radio. I go, oh yeah, I drove them, and so Lionel Richie. There's tons of them that come through Nashville.
Yeah.
And so Joe was in particular. He did not really want me. He did not want me to obey the laws that were in front of me. He just said, go. And I said, well, there's people there, Joe. I can't just drive. And so Joe Walsh was pretty unique in the sense that he really didn't care about traffic laws at all. I I had to stop him.
So he's great with the guitar.
He's great with the
He's
guitar.
not a good bass
No.
player. All right.
Yeah.
All right, very good.
Yeah.
All right, so let's start with the ministry side.
Yeah.
Think about in the work in the local congregation, your experience and
Yeah.
and preaching. First of all, just let's start on the preaching side.
Yes.
Because I'm going to be honest with you.
Houston is where my heart is, and ministry. Everything that I do, I see through the lens of ministry. And so I love it on heritage material where it says, what can you be and what can you do with the ministry degree? And you have all these things that are listed. And I think it's so important for people to know, to see the world through that ministry lens for leaders, whether they're administrators in school, whether they're at a nonprofit, or whether they're preaching every Sunday. There's a certain lens and a power to being a minister, a servant. And so I just appreciate that. So ministry is an important thing for me. It's a part of my identity as a
All right,
school
talk to
minister.
us about preaching. 'Cause,
Preaching.
I mean, you started doing it really young. I know at least by 13 you were preaching.
So my first sermon was on a chair at the Dresden Church of Christ at 11.
Okay.
And then got my first church when I was 13, Holidays Chapel Church of Christ. Those people were so patient.
Yeah, a lot of
there's a lot of people who suffered
for us to be
preachers.
Yeah.
So I'm very grateful for the encouragement that I've received. So preaching, delivering God's message, at this point in my life, I'm more prayerful about that than I've ever been. And of course, as you know, that the longer you're in a pulpit or the more you do it, you taste that humility in a deeper way.
Yeah.
And so those are things that I have grown to appreciate and learn to love about preaching. And I see leadership itself as a spiritual discipline and practice because of what we have to do as leaders in any organization or at a church. It's really a spiritual discipline to be a leader in a place. And of course, a lot of that is servanthood and putting on the towel and washing feet. That's what Jesus did. That's what our leader did. It was the servant. So those are profound things to think about. And so I'm just more prayerful and more humble in thinking about the pulpit. I feel like Isaiah, I'm a man of unclean lips, and so I think as you grow and as you age, you feel that.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that's helpful because I think about, when you're in high school and college and you're speaking everywhere.
Yes.
And, I always tell our students at Heritage, okay, remember when you walk out the back door, the brethren feel contractually obligated to tell you it was awesome, whether it was good or not.
Yes.
But you also were and still are legitimately an outstanding preacher. So one of the challenges when you're a teenager
Yes.
and you're a college student and you go out the door and folks are saying really nice things,
Yes.
it can blow up your head.
Yes.
And so it's kind of talk to me about how you fight that as you think about where you're at now.
Yes.
You're saying ministry, the longer I've been in ministry, the more it's humbled me. I guess
Yes.
that's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
absolutely. Yes. I think that for young preachers, I think understanding the call on our lives to be there with people in the thick and the thin and those important moments and to realize that we get to carry a special message, and it is the saving message of Christ. The power's in the Word, and relying on it. As well as I do that there's been those sermons, and you walk out of the pulpit and you said, "What happened? I don't know what happened," but then God uses that in some way that you never expected it. And so in my ministry, I've seen God use feeble attempts, and He's done so much. And then there's been times where I thought I knocked it out of the park. And so God is able. So God is able to use.
Yes.
The old saying of C.S. Lewis, where if God can use a donkey to deliver His word, if He can use Balaam's donkey,
Yes.
then He can use me.
Pretty much anybody else.
Yeah. So I think that having that sense of who God is and what He's doing, and reliance, reliance on Him, and that's that spiritual discipline of preaching, of leadership. It's really a discipline of relying on God in such a major
So
way.
it goes back to your comment about praying more.
Yes,
Okay.
absolutely. Like, if I don't pray over a sermon, then I missed a huge step. I have to pray over a sermon in a major way. And so I do that. That's a major part of my preparation is prayer.
I remember Tom Holland in homiletics class said your sermon's not ready till it's prayed over.
Yes.
And so
And it's something that you can forget. I mean,
Yeah.
when you're thinking about people and you're trying to speak to them and,
all right.
no, it's okay. Yeah.
All right. So
Yeah.
talk to us about, you were talking
Yeah.
about sermon's not ready till it's prayed over.
Yes. So just how important relying on God for that message and the soul searching that's involved and not getting away from that.
Okay. All right. So are there any particular, for preachers,
Yes.
are there any particular resources that you have found helpful?
I mean, I think the best thing that we can be is students of His Word, students of story. I think storytelling is an important part of preaching. Jesus was the greatest storyteller, and I think people are captivated by that. And so I think studying story is an important art form that Jesus appreciated. And so if we can incorporate that, then it really seems to resonate with folks. But as far as resources, I think finding mentors, finding good material with other preachers, as far as but I think ultimately, spending time in God's Word and thinking about what is the spiritual need. And a lot of times it starts in my own life. I look in the mirror, I say, what do I need? And so, but as far as, there's so many great books and great preachers, there's, so I don't know. I've got a ton of books and I beg, borrow, and steal from all of them. But,
so you talked some about leadership. Okay. You did your doctoral work, I think,
Yes.
in leadership.
yes.
And of course, you've been at Riverside Christian and now at Mars Hill. Are there any just things you've learned about leadership that could be helpful to anybody that might be listening?
I think, this is 101, but, you got to start with integrity first. Integrity's everything. If you don't start with yourself, self-leadership is really the beginning of it all. And if you can't lead yourself, then you can't lead anybody else. So you got to start there. Two, I think you just have to have a really concise mission and vision for what you're doing. So, I boil it down like in K through 12 education, I've got 3 things that I just beat the drum on all the time because that's what we do and that's what we got to be great at.
Okay.
So for me, like for K through 12 education, it's student outcomes. What's happening to the kids? We need tangible results, whether it's tests or whether it's jobs, whether it's whatever school they're going to, we need tangible results. Teacher satisfaction and quality, and then school culture. Those 3 things are like, and so as an administrator, of course, Christ is a part of all those things as far as bringing students to Christ, but you have to have that mission and that those concise things that you're about. I think that you can always bring back, well, what am I doing here? What decisions am I making? And is it going to impact the priorities of
That's
what?
good.
Yeah.
All right. So one quick thing.
Yeah.
You got a beautiful family.
Yeah. Thank you.
And I often see you and your entourage doing things together.
Yes.
Is there anything that you would say about, one of the challenges in preaching, ministry, and leadership is staying connected to your family?
Yeah.
Do
Absolutely.
you have anything you'd speak to on that, the whole idea of?
I think you just have to make it a priority and carve out time for everything you say yes to, you say no to. For everything you say no to, you say yes to. Having those boundaries built in and saying, I need to be a Noah I got to get them on the ark.
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
And so at the end of the day, that's a priority. And so hopefully they feel it, they know it, and other people see it too, because I want fathers to step up out there, you know.
All right. Any last things you want to say? This is your shot.
I would just say for everyone out there, the key word for me in my life has been faithful. I think striving to be faithful to God's calling on your life and on a personal note for my life is just striving to be faithful. God says, "Well done, thou good and faithful servant." And so faithfulness is really the key word that I strive for in my life. And so I just encourage people, be faithful.
Love you, brother. And I
Love you too,
appreciate you
man.
taking time to hang out
Yes,
with
sir.
me. Go back and hang out with that family.
Yes, sir.
God bless you and your work you're doing, and bless your family. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Ministry Matters That Do Matter.